Hello, everyone. Yes, we are back here. Welcome to the next episode of a conversation with Kely. This is episode something. I don't know what episode it is right now. But regardless, we are very excited to be here because we are covering a different show, a show that I've wanted to watch for a while back now. What are we covering today?
We are covering The Circle, season 2.
Yes. The Circle. This is a show I want to get into for a long time now. I've played in some mini games involving The Circle and things like that. And I heard people raving about The Circle UK, which I do want to watch. I wanted to watch this version first so I can then compare the two and things like that. But I was very excited to get into this show. And so we're going to talk about the four episodes that were released. Probably going to be on the longer side because there is a lot to really get into here. But I will just say right off the bat that I really love this show a lot. I think this is a really strong second season. I really like a lot of the players that are here. They're very different. It's a very diverse cast, even in terms of age range and things like that. And just in general, just in general, I think that this is already off to a really good start. But before we start off, talk a little bit about your history with The Circle, what you thought of the show, and what you thought of this premiere overall.
Well, this season so far is really good, and I'm already so addicted. I wanted to get to the next episode. But yeah, I watched season 1 and I loved it. It was so good, and it was just so addictive. And such a great cast. And this cast is great too. And I've never watched, I don't think I've really watched The Circle UK except for one episode or something, but I definitely want to continue that more. But yeah, so far this season, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I really like a lot of what we're getting here, but we're just going to get into it right now. So there's a lot that went down in these 4 episodes, but I think the first thing we really need to talk about are all the players of this season. We're only going to focus on the first 8 that were introduced in the first episode. We'll get into the other one once we get there. But we start off with our first one. We have Savannah. We didn't do a cast assessment or anything either because there was nothing that came out early. So I guess that's also a part of this video. But we start off with Savannah. She is 24 from LA. She works on Capitol Hill. She does data research. She has a fun and social personality, and she's playing as herself. And was that a good decision? Well, we'll get into that. But she hopes that people can see this nerdier side of her with playing games. And she thinks that building alliances and making connections are the most important. But she has no issues with putting people in check if she needs to. Wants to play very tactical and strategic. And what did you feel about Savannah overall?
I actually really love her. She was one of my favorites from the start. I just think she's really fun and bubbly, kind of like me. And she just seems like a really good player. She looks like she's ready to play hard, but also have fun.
Yeah, for sure. I really like her energy. I think she's someone that really takes the game very seriously. She's playing very hard, and I really liked what we ended up getting from her. Was unfortunate where she ended up, of course. We'll get into that, but I think overall, especially in terms of these 2 episodes, I think she, in terms of these 4 episodes, I think she definitely made a really good impression. I was really
I think so too.
happy to see the way that she played. She was definitely someone that immediately from her intro was very high on my list. And I don't think she disappointed really at all. I was very impressed by her. But the next person we're talking about is someone that I think is kind of important to you because he does have some significance.
This next one, Jack, he was actually in my first redacted mini.
Yes.
5:30. So I thought it was pretty cool because when he told the group chat that we found out about it, I thought it was pretty cool. Obviously I don't really know him that well, but that was just really cool to see. He is a 20-year-old college student. He studies astrophysics and economics. He's very nerdy and tends to geek out about a lot of things. He wants to play very cutthroat, manipulative, and strategic. However, he is worried if he plays as himself, they would clock him early. Instead, he is playing as his good friend Emily. She is a 21-year-old sorority girl and very easy to talk to, and feels he can build some trust easier with people. Feels he can embrace people and has done some extensive research, watching Selling Sunset and other shows. He wants to be the villain, like the biggest villain in the Circle history. And he says that she is studying astronomy and loves spending time with family and drinking.
Yeah, I really like him a lot so far. I think Jack is someone that I've heard he's played a lot of like LRGs and things like that. So he's really no stranger to these kinds of like social strategy games. What I really like about Jack is he's like, I'm going to be the villain. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to mess shit up. But he doesn't want to do it as himself. I think it was really smart that he's not playing as himself. He's playing as his friend who he feels is very non-threatening. You know, Emily's someone that if he normally played this season, I think people would naturally gravitate towards her. He's purposefully trying to play under the radar when in reality, he's doing a lot more than people think. And for me, at least so far, I think that he has the potential to be one of the best players of this season. I really like the way he's playing the game so far.
Oh, no, same. I think he's doing an amazing job. I can definitely see him winning in the end, but, like, we'll see.
Yeah.
He's doing really well.
Yeah, he really is. I think definitely, especially in these 4 episodes at least, he's definitely one of the players that I was most impressed by. I really like the way he's going about the game. And if he continues on the upward trajectory that he's on, I think he has a lot of potential to really do something great and to really get far in this game for sure. I think he has some legitimate longevity here. Now, I can't really say that for the next person that we're talking about, and that's Bryant. Bryant is 26 years old from California. He teaches breathwork. He used to work at a regular job, but he had his hair falling out constantly and was virtually unhappy. So he awakened spiritually, I guess. He awakened spiritually. He said going into the game, he wants to capitalize off the oddball persona and weirder personality. He says that no bad juju will be allowed. He wants to be kind, create alliances. And my question is, what the fuck is this guy doing on this show? Like, seriously, I don't know who Bryant is. I don't know what he's doing here. I don't understand the way that he speaks. I appreciate the fact that he is authentically himself, but I have no idea what he is doing on a social strategy show like this.
I don't dislike him. He's not like a bad person. I just don't think he's really playing the game much. He gives me first boot energy, but like I don't hate him. I don't know. He's very weird in a way.
Yeah, I don't know. The minute that he came on screen, I'm like, this guy is just way too fucking weird for me. He has a really weird way of talking. He seems like a really nice guy for sure, and that's great. I just don't think that he is meant to play this type of game. He is the whole game relying completely on his social personality. He makes no effort to really make any real strategic bonds, and I just don't think he was ever really that fit to play this game. I think that Bryant is a person. He's very eccentric, and I like that, but I think he's a little too eccentric for this cast at least. I think he just didn't really fit in with them at all.
Exactly, I agree.
Yeah, so not very impressed by Bryant, nor do I know what he's really doing here.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming to the next one, Deleesa, she 32 or 23 backwards. She lives in the Bronx, in New York, and is a stay-at-home mom. She feels people naturally view her as cocky on social media already, so she plans to play as her husband, Trevor, because men may have it easier. Feels she feels he is a non-threat and a nice guy and can play up the single dad role very well and get along with everyone. Hopes if she can win the money, she can buy the house to give her children what she never had. What do you think of her?
I like her a lot. I think that I especially do like the fact that she is trying to, play up this more, oh, I'm a single dad and things like that. And I think she's doing a pretty good job with that, thinking that he's like this non-threat, just very easygoing. My only real thing is I don't understand why she didn't just come in as herself. I think she easily could have come in as herself, and I don't think she would have been as big of a target as she thinks she is. I do think it's working for her so far. But I don't understand why she didn't just want to come in as herself. I think that probably would have actually helped her more. And not saying it's not helping her, because, I think she's doing a good job so far. But I do think that if she were to play as herself, I don't think things go too differently for her. I think she's in pretty good social standing so far.
Exactly. I think she's doing really well so far. She hasn't really made herself a huge target, so she's just kind of like lying low and connecting with people. But hopefully she makes it farther. Maybe she'll be like one of the next few boots. I'm not really sure, but I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where she ends up going. But now we got to talk about someone that I'm very excited to bring up, and that is Terilisha. She is 34 years old from Dallas, Texas. She is this full-time substitute math teacher. Her students are considering her to be this very cool teacher because of her blue hair and all, she doesn't take a lot of shit and things like that. And she's even come up with her own theorem she talks about, and she feels like she can use her like math skills to her advantage. What do you think of Terilisha so far?
Oh my gosh, her and Savannah are definitely like my favorite so far. And I just think she's so strategic. She's very smart, and she's very social. So she's like bonding with like everybody. I really enjoy her. I can see her possibly winning. I can see her or Savannah winning because they're both like true like game players.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Terilisha, I loved her immediately. The one thing I really do love about her is just how smart she really is. I mean, she talks about how because of her math skills, she's able to like really clock catfishes very well and understand when people are being sincere. And so far, it seems like that's the case. Like, I like that she really just wants to get down to business. She doesn't take any shit. And I think she's really going to end up going far. She's already built herself really well, which we'll get into, but I really loved her. And for me, I think she probably is the best player right now. I really do love the way she's playing the game already. I'm very interested in seeing where she ends up going, because I really do like what we got from her so far.
Yeah, I really enjoy her, and I think she'll definitely she'll either win or make it like really far.
Yeah, very high on Terilisha for sure.
Yeah. All right. Our next person is Lee. He is 58, and he's an author from Texas.
Oh my God, Lee.
He's already written around 39 books under a female pet name, so he is very well adjusted to the catfish persona. Thought about coming in as himself, but feels there are too many biases against him. Instead, he plans to go in as made-up persona named River. He is a fabrication of photos from a friend of his. He is a waiter and a student and gay. Fun, exciting, but also very sensitive. He's also recently been single, so he feels heartbroken. He feels this will keep him from having to flirt with anyone. And he himself is gay and has been with the same partner for 32 years. He also doesn't know much about social media. He decided to get advice from his 20-year-old niece and has already acquired a bunch of knowledge in terms of slang. In his profile, he put his hometown as Texas. He says he is recently single, but also a real kid at heart.
Yeah, I love Lee so far. The second he came on, I loved his energy. I loved his introduction. I love that he is someone that's 58, but like he's trying to act like a 20-year-old. I think that alone is already a really funny concept to me, and I'm excited to see where he really goes in this game. I think there's a lot of potential for him to actually get far here. You know, I think he's someone that, you know, where, like I said, Deleesa is someone where I don't know if she needed to play as someone else. I think it's absolutely working out for Lisa.
Yeah.
I love the way he's playing the game. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and just in general, I love his energy, and he's just a lot of fun to watch so far. So I'm a pretty fan of him. He's pretty high on my list.
Oh no, I really like him too. He's not my number one or anything, but I do think he's really fun, and he's actually playing really well. Like, he's bonding with people, and he's just being very like low key, and I really like him. I'm enjoying him. I can see him being kind of like I can see him being kind of like a dark horse in a way.
I think so too. I think he's definitely someone that people aren't clocking in the way that you think they would, and I think it's definitely working out for him so far. So I'm really liking Lee a lot. But now we get to someone that I don't really have a lot of good things to say about. Let's talk about Chloe. Obviously, she's from Too Hot to Handle, a show that I have not seen. I know the premise of it. It sounds ridiculous to me. That's why I have not watched it. But maybe, and after this, I don't really have much ambition to either. But she is, of course, from England. She talks about how on the show she only won about like $10.50, so she wants to like actually win the prize money here. Before we get into my thought, what do you think about Chloe so far?
I actually like Chloe. She's not my number one, but I do actually really enjoy her. She's very fun. She's very positive. She's definitely very loud and stuff and everything, but like, I don't dislike her. I think she's really positive, and she kind of has also a little bit of me in her, just like with her positivity. But like, I don't see her going to the end, but I see her maybe getting like 4th or 5th or something. I do like her though.
I was not a big fan of her. I found her to be really annoying from the introduction. I will admit, as the episodes go on, she grew on me a little bit more. But I don't know. I feel like she came from a show that's all about like finding love, and that kind of felt like at first what she really wanted to do here. It didn't really feel like she was too focused on the strategic part of things, and she was really playing that up. I will say, I think it's funny with like the language barrier stuff. I think that's a little funny, like with the way they're playing. But aside from that, I'm just not really digging her at the moment. I'm not really feeling too good about Chloe right now. I don't hate her or anything, but she's definitely not one of my favorites for sure. I'm not the biggest Chloe fan at the moment.
I mean, I'm team all the girls, but honestly, I'm pretty much team all of them.
Yeah.
All right. The next person, the last one, is Courtney. He is 28 and is very energetic. He's an entertainment host for a pop culture show on the internet, and he hopes to spill the tea on all the celebrities. He feels he comes across mean, but really is a sweet little sunflower. He doesn't want the other players to know how involved he is with the entertainment industry, and is worried the players would think he is just trying to be nosy. He instead plans to go in as a barista and be very friendly until he has to not be. He sees it all as a game of chess. What do you think of Courtney?
I love Courtney. He's so energetic, and he really wants to be there and really wants to play the game. And I really like the way that he is playing so far. He's definitely someone that I think a lot of people see as someone that's just really fun and very easy to talk to. And I think that's going to take him very far in this game. I think the fact that he's playing as himself as well is also really helping him, because he's showing he doesn't really have anything to hide. And I feel like that's something that already we're seeing is kind of working to some players' detriments. Whereas the only thing he's really, hiding is the fact that, he is this big, he's this big entertainment host. People just think he's a barista. I don't really think that's going to hurt him in any way. So I think he definitely, I think he's definitely someone that's going to go far in this game, and definitely someone I got a great impression from. So I'm very high on Courtney for sure.
He's another person I can see winning just because he is very social. Like he's just like on pretty much everyone's good side besides like Terilisha.
Yeah, I really like Courtney a lot. But so those are all the players that we'll be talking about for now. There's another one we'll be talking about, of course, once we get to episode 3. We're already 20 minutes in, and we haven't even talked about what happened in the episode. That tells you how long this is probably going to be. But anyway, before the next 2 players come in, Michelle has the first 4 players. They start their circle chat, and we see that Jack is the first one to take the initiative. He's the first one to start talking, and Bryant goes ahead, and Jack already feels that Bryant is being too much of, I think he said he was too much of a kiss ass. He was just being too nice to people, and he just didn't really like his energy at all. You know, we talked about this, how Bryant is just someone that he just is too nice in the game. He doesn't really want to make any moves. He doesn't really want to talk strategy with people. I think this is going to be, you know, I think this is probably his biggest downfall in the game for sure. And he talks about how so basically Savannah makes it clear that she does not want to be the first one to initiate the conversation in order to really make herself not look too forward. She feels she's going to bond with Emily very well, but she's also very turned off by the fact that Bryant teaches breath work. She doesn't understand how that really does work. And do you think it's a good move, Savannah, to not be the first one to talk, especially with the way things played out for her?
I think it was a pretty good move for her. She probably just wanted to she didn't want to look too forward. She didn't want to look like she was causing anything, so she just kind of stayed quiet.
Yeah. I think definitely. I think definitely it was probably the right move for her because she didn't want to come across as too forward. I think that definitely did work out in her favor mostly.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, it's you.
Oh, I thought you were going to continue something.
No.
When Tara, Alicia, and Lee come in, Jack notices them immediately. Trevor likes how smart Terilisha seems and is the first to initiate conversation with them. Terilisha and Jack are already taken aback by Trevor's older dialect.
Yeah, and this was really funny to me when she's talking about what's on the 411, and they're like, this sounds like how our parents would talk. I thought that was really funny to watch, and it's true. No one really says that anymore, and I was surprised that she would say something like that because you just don't really hear that, but you can see immediately they're really thrown off by that.
Yeah, I agree. Savannah and Terilisha immediately recognize Chloe since they both watched her in Too Hot to Handle. Chloe feels she has a commonality. Wait, how do you say that word?
Commonality.
I'm sorry. Chloe feels she has a commonality with Trevor. Deleesa feels she can work with her very well. Jack thinks of himself he would get along with Courtney the best. Lee is excited there's another gay man in the house.
Yeah. So I think that definitely we see a lot of really good connections here. We see a lot of people, forming some good bonds and things like that. And I think we definitely do get to see that. Now, for some players, it doesn't really work out because Deleesa immediately starts talking about if the other players have children. And we can see that they're very thrown off by this. They don't really like this. They feel she's playing too hard into their emotions. And she talks about she loves talking to other parents, but also wants to play up the single dad persona. And, we can see that they're really thrown off. Now, meanwhile, Chloe and Savannah, they're bonding with him very well over this. And Savannah, she's also come from a single dad, and Chloe loves kids. And so it's interesting to see how this is working out. Whereas some players are taken aback by certain behavior, other players are like, no, I love this. Let's just expound upon this,
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so Chloe and Terilisha, they're not really buying what Deleesa's selling, and Terilisha especially doesn't feel what Trevor is saying sounds like something a man would say. Which, this is an early worry, but it seems to, from this, it doesn't seem to be too much of a concern, at least for Trevor. So she tries to flirt with Chloe, which she does seem very into. The characters, they're asked like this series of questions involving fruit, and Trevor really plays up the flirting.
Yes,
Chloe.
he does.
He really tries to make it clear, like, I am a single dad. I like Chloe and things like that. Do you think this is going to help Deleesa in the game, or do you feel she's already a little too focused on this interaction?
I could see it helping them in like for a little bit, maybe not the whole game though. Because like Chloe's obviously close with like the girls for sure, so I don't think it will help for that long. But
yeah, definitely. And so they're all asked to provide a fun fact, and then they have to choose about which player the fact is about. We're not going to go through all of the fun facts here, but I think the one we should really spend time on is the Bryant one, because it does kind of play a role into what happens to him, which, you can talk about what that fun fact was.
The next question is asked. Oh, sorry. Wait, what are you doing?
I'm just making it clear what we're talking about.
Oh, okay. Brian's fun fact was that he had asked who of them raised 10,000 to rescue. Wait, what does this mean? I don't know what this. I don't understand what you typed.
Oh, they're asked about $10,000 to rescue a friend off the street, and
right.
Yeah, what was interesting about this game, I thought, was that some of the questions, like, they couldn't figure out who it was, like, say the Trevor one with losing their virginities and things like that, but this one they're able to figure out like pretty immediately who it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brian's fun fact is he was asked to raise $10,000 to rescue a friend off the street. This answer is too obvious that they all pick Bryant. He feels it's great for him though, because people will see he is a straightforward person who does what he says he'll do. He tried to use this as a super bonding point towards Savannah. Deleesa feels he is killing the game and seems super loyal.
Yeah, this was definitely a point where it's like Brian is just a little too nice in this game. You can really see.
Yeah.
He's just someone that he's not really trying to build any strategic bonds, especially with what he ends up doing after this game, which we'll get into. Because some of the other questions that they're given here, they're a little more obvious. In fact, we're probably going to just skip the rest of the questions because they're really not that important. There's one.
Aww.
I mean, you can talk about what some of them were.
The next question is about meeting a guy in a bar and then 10 minutes later booking flights to Paris together, which Chloe knows is about her. Lee thinks he should pick Terilisha as a bonding point, but she says she'd actually be offended if people chose her. Once again, nearly everyone picks Chloe. She isn't sure how to react to it, but once again, Trevor really plays up the flirting, and Chloe loves the connection they are building. She also really likes the energy from Courtney. She feels this can be a way to keep him here for a while.
Yeah, and this was another one that felt a little too obvious, but I think for Chloe's sake, it definitely worked with like her connection to Trevor. You definitely do see that here, and I think that definitely did. I think that very much did help her like get closer with Trevor.
Yeah. The next question is about being part of the National Robotics team. The question is about Savannah, which once again, mostly everyone picks. Jack loves how smart she is and says if he was playing as himself, he'd be flirting hard with her. He plans to use this as a way to bond with her. Lee feels concerned by how many women are in the house and feels it may become a big part of the game.
And this was definitely a valid concern because to him, it's mostly women in the game right now. Obviously, Emily isn't really Emily, but you can definitely see that Lee is very fearful of this because, the women are going to try to group together and take down the guys. And I can see why Lee is definitely a little worried about this because, again, he's just playing a 20-year-old. And to him, he'll probably be seen as expendable to them. So I can see why he was a little bit worried about that for sure. Now, Terilisha immediately is not a big fan of Chloe, really at all, which, I can't really blame her. Bryant is feeling very overly confident, and Chloe is feeling that Trevor is going to be this huge flirt of the season. In terms of the game that they played, I think it just dragged on a bit. I don't think we needed to see every single solitary question that they answered because some of them were
true, yeah.
The Deleesa one really wasn't that important. So I don't really think we needed to see that. I don't really think we needed to see the Savannah one either. So I don't think that is necessary at all. Yeah, I think there's just some of the questions really dragged on here. Now, finally, we do get to some actual strategy here where we see that Bryant and Courtney are the first two private chat, but Bryant does it in a really weird way. He doesn't say like, hey, I want to work with you. He's like, I want to offer you this eternal friendship, and I hope you can take it far within the game. And it's basically, I guess, his way of saying he wanted to be a ride or die, and I think it was smart.
Yeah.
He did decide to work with Bryant, but just really weird way of going about it.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a terrible move on his part, but it was definitely a interesting scenario for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it was a good move for Bryant, but the way that he did it was just very, very strange overall. Again, it just speaks to me not really thinking if he should really even, be in this cast. I don't think that this was really a good cast for him. This is not a very chill group at all. You're very game body, and Bryant is not. So I think definitely
very true
here. Now Jack, meanwhile, makes this group chat, and he calls it "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." It's an all-girls alliance, and this was really great. Chloe immediately jumped to talking strategy, which she asked if they're all single, mainly just asking what they think about Trevor. And Terilisha feels that his lingo is a bit suspicious. She's not entirely sure if he is who he says he is. Again, just really showing how good Terilisha is at already clocking people. And Jack makes it clear. Jack makes it clear that this is really just a first impression, and that if she's interested, she should take the time to get to know him. And he feels he's fitting in really well. He feels like this is a really good bonding point for him. But Chloe feels that Trevor might be the thing that breaks this potential alliance apart. And I think on Jack's part, this was a really good move. I think he did a good job of getting in there, trying to work with the people that he needed to, trying to build those solid connections. I think it was definitely a really strong move on his part. What I don't think was, I think the thing that is going to wreck it potentially is this relationship with Chloe and Trevor. I think that could potentially wreck things. I think she could get too focused on that, and I think that could potentially be Jack. But I do think that this was really smart for Jack to immediately put all of the girls together.
I think so too. I like that all the girls are in alliance because they could run things if they want to. Honestly, I think it'd be great for them.
Yeah, it's definitely a good cast for them to do that for sure. Now, immediately after this, we see an alert, and that means that the rankings need to happen. They're all taken about by this because it's very early to do it, and we're not going to go through all of the rankings because there was a lot here, but Lee puts Trevor at number 1, which, we're not too surprised about. They had that good connection and thinking that he would save River. Savannah puts Terilisha at number 1. Remember that, because it's not going to stay that way for a while.
It's not.
At this point, she trusts her a lot in the game and likes how much she's opening up in group chats and things like that. And Terilisha does the same with Savannah. We see Bryant puts Courtney at number 1. Which makes sense. That's really the only connection he built in the game at that point. Terilisha puts Trevor at 5th because although she's kind of suspicious of him, she does want to really see what he's all about, which I thought was smart. I like that she didn't put him at the bottom because she does want to still get to know him. She feels that there is still a connection to build there. I thought that was very smart on her part for sure. Now, Deleesa puts Bryant at 6, thinking that most will probably put him at the top. And Terilisha, she puts Chloe at 7th, thinking that she's just not really focused on the game at all. And then Savannah puts Bryant at 8th, thinking that he's her biggest roadblock in the game. I feel like the majority of these tracked really well. I wasn't really too shocked by any of the rankings here. Most of them were pretty much what you would have expected from what we saw up to this point. But what was interesting to me is what happens after the rankings, because Deleesa has this conversation with Savannah, and I really like this a lot. Basically, they bond about the fact that Savannah was also raised by a single parent. She had a single mom, and basically Savannah's was in prison and couldn't really be there in the way that she wanted him to be. So her mother kind of had to do all the parenting on her own. And I really liked this conversation a lot. I thought this was a really good move for Savannah. She took what could have been a potential problem for her and someone that could be an adversary and actually turned into someone that could be a legitimate ally for her. And I really liked getting to see the bond that these two formed.
I agree.
What? I really like the bond that I think both of them ended up forming here. So the results come out. Bryant is in dead last place, which I don't think anyone was really surprised about. That's kind of like what I was expecting from him. Now, Emily's in 7th, which he's very surprised about, considering that it seemed like he was working well with people. I think he just didn't make the connections that some other people did. I think that's probably why Jack is in 7th there. Chloe's at 6. 4th is a tie between River and Courtney. Trevor's at 3rd, and Terilisha and Savannah are chosen to be at the top of the list. And they're given 24 hours to choose who of the bottom 3 that they want to save. Savannah feels this is really good for them since they are probably on the same page. And the episode ends with us not knowing who they were going to save. Netflix, you bastards. Why would you do that to us? But solid first episode, I'd say. Solid first episode. I think there was... What?
I love this episode so much. I thought it was a really great one for a premiere. And I just can't wait to see what happens with the second one.
Yeah, I
can't wait to talk about the second one.
Because we're gonna be talking about it in a little bit. So no, but I think this was definitely a solid first episode. I think that there were some things that they could have spent a little bit less time on, like, say, for example, the game I think did drag on a bit too long. It took a little while to get into the actual strategy, but once we did fully get into it, that's when I thought it really did start to shine more. So I definitely enjoyed this first episode. But now we got to talk about what happened in episode 2, because there's a lot that really does go down here. So I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about what happened, including who they decided to save.
Okay. Terilisha saves Emily, and Savannah saves Trevor, meaning Chloe, Bryant, Courtney, and River will be blocked tomorrow. And then Chloe messages Emily and asks why Savannah chose to save Trevor over her, and Jack also thinks this was a weird move considering she was the first to express doubt about Trevor. Chloe adds Savannah to the chat, and she says that she felt bad about the decision, but ultimately saved Trevor because of them connecting so well. This outrages Chloe and Jack doesn't really understand why he was added to this, but loves that he can overhear it. Savannah is really not liking the way Chloe is going about this and isn't sure she'll actually be as upfront and honest as she says. The girl gang alliance already seems to be crumbling.
Yeah, we really do see immediately, like, this might not be working in the way that they wanted to. And I think we definitely got the sense that was going to happen. Jack immediately decided to message them. And a lot of the time, we've seen this in Big Brother before, like, they make these alliances and then it just doesn't seem to work out. And I think this is one of those things where it wasn't as natural of a connection as I think Jack thought it was. So I think he definitely it was inevitable that something like this was probably going to happen.
Yeah, it sucks because girls' alliances, I love girls' alliances a lot.
Oh yeah.
But most of the time they never really work out. So it sucks that they're already crumbling. And
Yeah.
Bryant, meanwhile, Bryant decides to campaign to Terilisha. He congratulates her on being an influencer, and she asks him about being a breathwork technician and about how he had a lot of anxiety issues and felt like he wasn't making any good decisions within the world. He became bulimic and slutty, which he feels being open with her is a good idea, and Terilisha feels this may be enough to keep him around.
Yeah, I liked this a lot. Bryant was someone that Terilisha, she wasn't really sure how she felt about him, but I liked that they were able to have this connection. It was definitely something where but again, I think once again, he was far too reliant on his social gain. He was far too reliant on what he himself was doing. He wasn't really talking any strategy here. And I think that's what ultimately did hurt him, especially when you're at risk. Why wouldn't you try to campaign? He's really not doing
that. Exactly.
So then we get this really fun segment where they all have to do this poetry slam, and each of the players at risk, they have to write this rhyme scheme poem, and it's about one of the influencers in the hopes of staying. They all get corsets to wear along with the poetry, and the save players then have to rate them. So Courtney goes first. This whole sonnet about Savannah, and I love this. It's mainly about how much he has in common with her, how much he wants to
love this part. I love this part.
I thought this was a really good poem from Courtney for sure. Most of them seem to really like it, except for Deleesa, thinking it's not smart to announce how close he is with her. But I think this really actually helped him because it showed that his connection with Savannah was legit. He wasn't trying to, be fake to her in any way. He was sincere about how much he liked her and wanted to connect with her. And so I think this really worked out for Courtney very well.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it a lot.
Yeah, so Chloe goes up next. She does this whole rap about Terilisha, and everyone really seems to like it except for Savannah. She didn't really like the way that this was done, really not liking Chloe very much at all in this situation. We really see Savannah and Chloe are really not bonding in the way that I think they wanted to here. But River goes next. This whole poem about Savannah, which feels more about how heartbroken he was coming into the game. And this, to me, was not a very good poem. It didn't Savannah feels it didn't really give her any new information that she already knew. And I just think, again, he played too much into his emotion here. It needed to be a bit more about the influencer, and it felt like it was too much about himself. So I don't think this was a really strong poem at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, the worst one easily, though, unsurprisingly, is Bryant's. It felt less like a poem about Savannah and more like that name game song where, it's like Judy,
God, no.
Banana Fana Fofuni. That's what it felt like. It felt like his version of the name game song, and no one's impressed by this, unsurprisingly. I think they all gave it like C's and D's, maybe even some F's in there.
Yeah.
They were really not impressed by his performance. But
yeah, his wasn't that strong.
His was really not that great. But in addition to saving to survive the block, all the players get this golden quill as a gift for performing the poem. And after the poem, Brian decides to message River. And I'm like, okay, great. We're going to finally start to see some strategy from him. But again, it's literally just about him talking about how, I'm so happy that you're being authentically you. And it's like, this is great, but like, can you save the pleasantries for when you're in the game still? You need to be campaigning to people. And he doesn't for a second do that. In fact, he's talking to someone who's also at risk. This was just a really weird conversation to me, because why are you talking to someone that, one, is at risk, two, has nothing to do with game. It was such a weird move on Bryant's part. And again, I think it just really shows he's just too nice of a guy for this game.
I think so too. Like, Lee's doing really well, but he is too nice. Like, I don't think he's he's not the best game player. He's just more social, and he's just there to like make connections.
Yeah, I think definitely that was definitely shown here. But Courtney, meanwhile, is working on his relationship with Savannah, and it seems to be working out really well for both of them. They're bonding over similar music choices, and I really liked their connection a lot. I think this is definitely one of the highlights connections in the season, especially at this point. I think you can think this is probably going to help both of them go pretty far in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I love Courtney and Savannah's bond. I can see them being really good friends outside of the game. But like, I just think their bond is like really genuine.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed their bonding throughout, not just this episode, but throughout the entire 4 episodes that we got. I really liked what we got from them. But Lee messages Terilisha. He comes up with a hashtag that doesn't exist at first, and he tries to make like this big sister type vibe with her. And it actually seems to really work. They talk about his breakup and how he feels that this could take him far in the game since he won't ever want to throw her under the bus. And this could be a really good final 2 for him. And I think this was really smart for Lee to do. Not only is he really playing up that, I've been heartbroken really well, he's also doing a really good job of letting Terilisha know that like he wants to work with her. He's very sincere about it. And this type of bond with her, I think is really good for his game, especially with her being an influencer.
Oh yeah, same. I think they can do some damage in this game if they like really stick together.
Yeah, so while everyone is trying to campaign to the influencers, Chloe is just bonding more with Trevor. She makes it clear that Deleesa believes that Chloe is legit, and they talk about how she really shouldn't ever settle for less than the best. It's a good conversation for sure, but it's unfortunate because Chloe's feeling that there's a legit chance of something brewing between the two, which obviously she's being played in that way. And so I felt bad for Chloe in the situation. Again, I felt she was just too focused on this one connection. She should have taken the time. She does a better job with this later on, but in these few episodes, she really should have taken the time to bond closer with the girls because she already felt good with Trevor.
Yeah.
I don't know why they needed to talk more here.
Yeah, I agree. Like, she should just focus on the game more than just like a showmance.
Yeah, definitely.
And Alert is sent out, and Terilisha and Savannah are asked to go to the hangout to decide who they want to block this week. Terilisha isn't sure what to do here because she doesn't have any personal relationship with Courtney at the moment, but doesn't want to reveal that yet. Terilisha realizes she isn't threatened by him at all, but she is. Savannah tries to deflect his name as much as possible and says that he seems genuine and non-threatening. Terilisha then asks what she thinks about River, who she wants to keep around. Savannah says she really hasn't gotten the chance to get to know him yet.
Yep.
Terilisha feels this is a good opportunity to try and sway him over with Savannah. She says she will only take...
This was a really interesting conversation between these two because at this point they felt really good for each other, but you already see here there's some clear tension.
I agree. She says she will only take him off the list if she was okay with taking Courtney off the list. She makes it clear he is not at all an option to go, and though that she clearly doesn't feel good with him, Terilisha agrees with the deal.
And I think this was definitely the right move on her part to take this deal, even if Terilisha didn't feel that Courtney benefited her game at that point. She knew that it was clear that there was a connection between Courtney and Savannah, and I think she wanted to make sure that Savannah's someone that she keeps around this game. She feels really good with her.
Yes.
So I think this was definitely the right move on Terilisha's part. Now, the way both of them go about this afterwards, that's a different story. But at this point, I think she did the right thing.
Yeah, I think she did too. When speaking about Chloe, Savannah says that though she wants to keep her loyalties to all the girls, and she feels she may doubt her intentions and may not be someone that goes to bat for her. Terilisha feels she can use.
I think it's definitely true. We've definitely seen that up to this point.
Yeah. Terilisha feels she can use this to her advantage next round. To Savannah, Chloe doesn't really want to work with the girls and just wants to flirt with everyone. Terilisha says she doesn't really trust Savannah at the moment. Savannah says if she doesn't have Chloe's back, she's going to lose Emily. Terilisha feels this is bullshit because she didn't see Chloe last night and feels she is very disingenuous. She then decides to bring up Bryant, and Savannah realizes how close her and Bryant have become. It does seem that neither of them are as close as him, though.
Yeah, and this was definitely, I think it was pretty clear after this conversation what was really going to happen, especially when they make that announcement themselves. Like it was really clear what they were probably going to end up doing here, because we see all of the players, they're asked to go to the circle chat, and Alicia makes the announcement, and it turns out to be Bryant, mainly because they just weren't able to make a good enough connection with them. And while everyone's heartbroken to see him go, I think it's mainly because he was just such a genuine guy. I think that's why they were so upset about it. It wasn't because of any specific connection they formed. It was just because Bryant is someone that's very genuine. He's very down to earth. But I also think that was like his biggest detriment in the game, really, because he meets face to face with one player. He's told he can before he ends up leaving. And it turns out to be River. And somehow he's not shocked about this at all, that River is like a 50-year-old man. I don't know why he wasn't like more shocked about this. He's like, oh, I knew. I'm like, how did you know? But whatever. And so they're not really, again, Lee talks about how he played too much with his heart and not really talking strategy. And I feel like he summed it up very well here, like what the problem with Bryant's game was. He just didn't really have much of one. He focused way too much on those emotional connections and not really on anything else. And Lee promises that they are going to be like good friends after this game and things like that. And again, it's sad to see Bryant go because he definitely was like a guy, but I also feel he didn't do anything to help himself. So
yeah, he really didn't. Like, I don't dislike him at all, but I just think he just wasn't as good of a player as the others, it seemed.
Yeah, definitely. So before the episode ends, the remaining players, they receive this alert with Bryant gone. A new player is going to be entering the circle. And it turns out that person is Lance Bass. Lance Bass is going to be entering the game. And we'll talk more about what ends up happening once we get to the third episode.
Oh my God. The Lance Bass thing is so, like, obviously a catfish, because I don't think Lance Bass would play on here, would he?
No, definitely. I think it's pretty legit that it's not actually Lance Bass here. So we're back. We had to take care of something for a little bit, and we did not get to continue until now. But yeah, in regards to the whole Lance Bass thing, I feel like it was pretty obvious that it was a catfish, but we will get more into that. That's everything going on within the first two episodes. Pretty solid first week, I will say. The one thing I will say, and people have mentioned this, there wasn't a lot of social conversations in those first 2 weeks. It was a lot of strategy. You get the sense that these players themselves know the game really well. Did you like the fact that it was mostly strategy? Would you have liked to see more social? What would you think?
I mean, I definitely like the strategy talk, but I also like the making connections and being social as well. Because obviously you need to make those connections because this is like a social game. So you want to like get par.
And for the viewers, it also gets us to, for those that we don't know, like obviously if you've seen Too Hot to Handle, you know Chloe and things like that. But it gets us to know who these players are outside of just playing the game. So I like that in these next two episodes, we get a lot more of both. And it's really good to see. But anyway, let's get into episode 3. A lot of juicy stuff in episode 3, to say the least. So I think we should just get into it.
Yeah. With Bryant gone, the game is reset. The players are in shock that Lance Bass is competing when he's already popular. But like, I don't think Lance Bass would actually be on this show. So It's pretty obvious it's a catfish.
Well, what I thought was really funny is that some of them didn't even know who he was. Like, Chloe, like, who the hell is Lance Bass?
I know. The players then hear the news feed was updated and are told Bryant left a message to see if he is actually legit. He tells them he wanted to play with his heart and came in with the strategy of sharing the love and speaking from the heart. The players mostly seem upset that they took him out when he seemed like such a nice guy, although Jack isn't really here for it.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective on this is that Bryant seems like a very genuine and very nice guy, and he just had no place in this cast. This is a cast that is cutthroat. This is a cast that is very game body. It doesn't have a place for Bryant, and I think that's why he stuck out like a sore thumb. Because really, I mean, I don't think Bryant was quote unquote bad at the game. I just don't think the game that he wanted to play aligned with what other people wanted to play. I think it was more just he himself was very social. He wanted to keep it very social. And the other players really didn't. They're much more strategic. They really want to get down to business. So I think that overall just this clashed with who Bryant was.
Yeah, he was like in a house with a lot of game players.
Yeah.
Or apartment.
Yeah, you can tell they're very much game bots.
Yeah.
Especially Jack, who he literally said I'm not here for the pleasantries.
He's like, no, I'm just here to win.
Yeah.
Terilisha is very annoyed by Savannah because of how fake she's being about Bryant leaving when she's the reason he is gone. She makes it clear she really didn't want him out. Savannah doesn't understand why she didn't fight harder for him if she really didn't want him gone. She felt because she wanted this to save River and Savannah wanted to save Courtney that this was the best possible solution. They both really seemed annoyed as Savannah tries to act like it's a joint decision when it's not.
I loved this tension. I think that in terms of being an influencer, this is what we really want to see. Because yes, an influencer can bring you closer to someone, but for someone like Savannah and Terilisha, it didn't really feel like there was any real tension there until they suddenly had to talk one-on-one with each other and realize, oh, we are not the same at all. We are not playing the same game. And I really loved the tension through them. It's a big part of these two episodes. What did you think of this whole thing with Terilisha and Savannah?
Oh my god, I'm totally here for this. It's definitely kind of what the game needs too. Maybe they'll be friends outside the house. Who knows? But in the game, they obviously started out close, but then they were like, no, I guess we don't really clash because we're on the opposite ends. But yeah, I'm definitely here for it. I hope it can continue.
Yeah, I really liked what we got to see from them for sure. But so the players then decide to focus on the addition of the new player. Some know who Lance Bass is. Like I said, others have never even heard of him. But unsurprisingly, this is not really Lance Bass that is playing. No. We get this new player. Her name is Lisa. She's from LA. Yep. She's a personal assistant. Her boss actually happens to be Lance Bass, and she's been a personal trainer of his for 14 years. And what do you think of Lisa so far?
I definitely think she's nice, and she's definitely there to play the game. But so far, she's not the best game player. She's probably the weakest one so far.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't dislike her as a person. I just want to see what she does going forward.
I am really not a big fan of her so far. I get what she was trying to do. I get what she was trying to do, that, she has this connection to Lance Bass. She thought it would be funny to come in as him. She thought that because she's a little bit older than some of the players, coming in as Lance Bass would be better for her. And I think she did do some good stuff. I liked how for her profile, she didn't want to use any pictures of his husband. She wanted to use a picture of him and his dog, because it would probably be harder to find that than a picture of him and his husband, which is probably pretty easy to find. So I like the way that she went about that. I just don't think that she's playing this game very well right now. Throughout the course of these two episodes, we really don't see her talking much strategy with anyone, let alone talking about really anything. I don't quite understand what her game is, and I also don't quite understand why she couldn't just play as herself. I think she would have actually fared a lot better in the house if she did. And obviously, like,
I think so
she's
too,
not
actually.
a huge target right now, but that's really only circumstantial. We'll get into that, but like, I don't think this was a really strong first week for her at all.
No, I mean, I don't hate her, but she's definitely low on my list of rankings. Yeah. But yeah,
if I had to rank her, I'd put her like pretty close to the bottom.
Yeah. I can see her being maybe one of the next few boots.
Yeah. And immediately, I mean, she sends this first message explaining how long that he's been in the entertainment industry, making sure all of her math is correct as well as his cooking, because she wanted to be as accurate as possible. And right off the bat, she feels she has some good commonalities with people. Savannah's half Mexican. Courtney is gay. Yeah. Obviously, Lance Bass is a bunch of those things. So this gets them to believe it. And they seem to believe this is actually Lance Bass. I couldn't believe it. They were actually like misted into thinking it. Lee especially is like really taken aback by it, because he's a huge like NSYNC fan, and I just feel like it's so obvious this is not him. I don't understand why they thought for sure like, oh, this has to be Lance Bass. And like, I get they made the comparison with Chloe, but like, Chloe is like a D-list reality star. Lance Bass is a pretty big name. I don't think they would get him.
He's in a 90s boy band.
Yeah. So they're all given this brunch. They start this public chat, and immediately I feel like Lisa started off on the wrong foot here, because she's talking to them about how his experience with the entertainment industry, and Terilisha doesn't really understand why he's here if he already has the money, right? Why would he want to be here? And Savannah feels this is really overstepping by her asking him about it. And Lisa says that she won't donate some of the money, that she's going to donate some of the money to charity, and that she's going to use it to make an NSYNC tour. And this really rubs the players the wrong way. I think she said it was intended to be a joke, but I thought this was a really bad move from her. She's like, oh, I'm going to give all this money to like the NSYNC tour and things like that. And everyone here is like, well, we have money for legitimate reasons. Like, you look at someone like Deleesa, for example, who she talks about how she wanted to use that money for like her children and to give them that house that they were never able to have. And then Lance Bass is here like, oh, I'm just going to use it for a fucking NSYNC reunion tour. Like, no, it doesn't, like, doesn't work at all.
That's not...
Yeah, I thought this was, even if she was joking, clearly this was not a good first impression in any way. The only person this seems to work for is Chloe. Chloe wants to know about Lance's life when he was on tour. He shares this really embarrassing story about splitting his pants and having to dance with his ass out. And the only suspicion that we get about this not being Lance Bass is actually from Deleesa, because she doesn't remember hearing the story. She feels like it would be more widely known if it was. So I feel like Deleesa is going to be the person to kind of ruin this for Lisa. I could very well see a scenario where Lisa already is not working well with people, and Deleesa ends up calling out the fact that, like, yeah, this story doesn't really add up. So I don't think Lisa's going to be in here for very long, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. So not a very good first impression from Lisa, for sure.
Oh my God, not me yawning right now.
I know I'm boring. It's all good.
No, not at all.
You know what? I think it's an example of just how bad Lisa is at starting conversations. How little we care about Lisa in the game right now.
Exactly. I love you. You're never boring.
I love you. You never boring.
All right. Emily decides to talk to Trevor since they really haven't talked at all yet. Jack tries to start up a conversation about the Giants, which Deleesa discusses out since she shouldn't know that much about it. Jack recognizes this and tries to spin it as Emily's family knows a lot about sports. Deleesa does some research about what happened, and she says, though she knows a lot of women into football, there's a lot about women in football, this message is a bit sus.
Oh, I thought this conversation was so funny to me when like she's literally like pulling out like her notes and she's like, all right, let me see when this happened. I thought that was so good when like she literally didn't know anything about what he was talking about.
Exactly. Jack changes the subject to talking about Trevor's family, and Deleesa asks about her family. He talks about his dad being in the Navy, but for Emily, he's pretending her dad wasn't around much, and she's very close to her older sister.
Yeah, it seems like, at least from what we've gathered so far, if you talk to Trevor about his family, that is an immediate entry point into a bond, because that's what Savannah's done, and since then, Trevor's had him. That's what now Jack is doing, and since then, Deleesa has had him. So I think this is definitely the right move. I think starting off talking about football was not the greatest entry point. I think that's something that I think that's also a flaw for someone like Deleesa, because of the fact that she is playing up this persona of being a single dad, being being the stereotypical single dad in that way. I think this is an area that's going to hurt her because she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's about some of this stuff. And I know she texted like her husband and things like that, but like, this really could end up hurting her. And no one's like clocked it yet, that this doesn't really sound like something that, well, there was only like 2 instances, I think, of people like clocking it. But I do think that this is something that she needs to work on for sure. She needs to remember who she's pretending to be. And so even when something comes up that's not her area of expertise, she needs to be prepared to have an answer for it because of who she's playing.
Exactly. Deleesa is pleased by this conversation, but is starting to think Emily might not be who she says she is.
Which is really the only suspicion I feel someone has of Jack. Every other time, like, it seems like it's working out for him.
I know, they're going to be shook.
I know. Or maybe not, because Bryant wasn't shook about Lee. But that's also Bryant. So
yeah, he was like, oh my God, what?
Yeah, he was just like, oh, I knew. Like, how the fuck did you know?
Lee decides to be the first one to create a private chat with Alicia. As Rivers, he knows he can't act like a fan in any way, since River wouldn't know who Lance really is. He lets him know how close he's become with Terilisha and that she was the first influencer.
I liked this conversation. I did. I liked that, Lee used his his knowledge of instinct as a way to get close to Lisa. Again, it's just Lisa doesn't really want to talk any strategy. And I think that's definitely hurting her here.
Yeah. Savannah, meanwhile, continues to bond well with Courtney and says she isn't sure if she can really trust the all-girls alliance at this point, since she is at the bottom of the girls' alliance.
More drama.
I know. Like, girls' alliances hardly ever work out.
I know. This isn't Big Brother. Come on.
It's not TV.
Yeah, come on. Let's make it work.
Yeah, I think that was the only girls' alliance that actually worked out.
Yeah.
She tells Courtney that she knows last night must have been stressful for him, and he's curious whether or not she's going to bring up the tension with Terilisha, which she does, and says that, though she's sad to see Bryant go, she's glad Courtney is still here.
Yeah, I really like the relationship with Savannah and Courtney. We already talked about this, I think, in the previous. I think we already talked about this earlier on, but I really like the connection that these two are forming. I feel like it's one of the better bonds we've seen in the house, which is why it's unfortunate what ends up happening later on.
He's very happy she decided to save him and says Terilisha isn't someone that is on his good side after this conversation. She says she thought they were friends and she doesn't feel she can trust her anymore. They both agree this is something they need to try to get other people to know about, and makes it clear they have each other.
So here's my thing with this. I get why Savannah felt betrayed by Terilisha, but I also feel like Savannah should have known like something like this was probably going to happen because of the way the whole situation played out and the way that she was constantly stumping for Courtney. I feel like it was she didn't really do a good job of not making it obvious. And the thing is, like, they've both done similar things. I just think Savannah handled it way worse than Terilisha did, which she did some things a little bit differently, which I think you're going to talk about right now, actually.
Terilisha makes a chat with Chloe and Emily called True Colors. Chloe is surprised Savannah is not in the chat, and Terilisha says that she's glad to see they're both still here, and she does have their backs. But when it comes to Savannah, she has concerns. She isn't really with them and didn't want to save Chloe. Yeah. Terilisha wishes Emily would have expressed the same doubts, but Chloe seems really annoyed by this, and she feels this 3 is something that is really going to help her in this game. She hates how wishy-washy Savannah is and that they need a strategy to build trust and be each other's allies. She feels she has the girls for sure.
Right, and this is where I think that we already see the difference in how Terilisha's handling it and how Savannah's handling it. Savannah is going to Courtney, who she already has an established relationship with, and basically just telling him, yeah, Terilisha's coming after you. But the thing is, that's one vote. You don't know he's going to be the influencer. Terilisha spins it as, it is in our best interest to work together to make sure that Savannah is, you know, she wasn't trying to outright target Savannah. She just says, I have some doubts. I have some worries with the way things are going. She did it in a much more underhanded approach, whereas I feel like Savannah was very upfront with the way she did it. And so I feel like that's where they really differ here. I think because Savannah, she talks about, isn't a very confrontational person, it was way too obvious what she was doing.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I actually like, though, how, like, I do really like that Savannah's, like, this game player, and she is very upfront. So if she makes
it was just to the wrong person.
It really was. But, like, if she, going forward, she definitely just has to be more careful.
Yeah, definitely. So the players are given an alert that a new event is going to start known as Circle Fest. And at first, it's just this VIP access where they get a bunch of props. They get to dance to the music, which, of course, is in sync. And then they play a game of Truth or Dare. And I was struggling as to whether or not I wanted to take notes at this. But then we get some good stuff here. You know, we have this thing with I believe it's Emily and River, where Jack wants to be close to River, so he makes it clear that, like, he feels good with him and things like that. But then we really get down to business when it comes to Terilisha, because she uses this as an opportunity to pick truth. And when she's asked who the biggest game player in the circle is, we pretty much know who she ends up saying. She says Savannah, and Savannah then uses this as an opportunity to call her out, saying that if she is a game player, or does she see her as a threat? Is she really being a good game player right now? And Terilisha says she didn't keep her promise, which Savannah doesn't understand since Chloe is still here. And what I'm going to ask you, do you think Savannah should have intervened here? Should she have just let Terilisha said this? Or do you think that she needed to start this whole, fight between them? Do you think that's what hurt her?
I don't think she